Hello once again, Star Wars and unboxing fans. Welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba's Star Wars unboxing show, Shelf Talk. And have received a few requests on comments to have an episode devoted to the vintage collection that I have. So I thought I would do this slowly over time. And it won't happen in any given order. We're just going to start with 4 figures and kind of work our way through. I don't own a complete vintage set, but I'm going to talk through them one at a time, okay? No particular order, okay? Just basically how I had them on display. So today we're going to talk about these 4. We're going to talk about 2-1B, and I'll try to avoid glare here. 2-1B from the Return of the Jedi card. Tusken Raider or Sand Person, okay? Also from a Return of the Jedi card. Boushh, Leia dressed as Boushh from the Return of the Jedi card. And lastly, Wicket W. Warwick from there. So why don't we start? I'm going to put these off to the side and we'll start this. And yes, I'll call this technically an unboxing show because I'm going to take the star cases off so you can just kind of get a better look, a less glary look at each of the figures. So we have our 2-1B. Now obviously this is not, I don't believe this is 2-1B's initial release. Okay, this is a, as I mentioned in previous episodes, the return of the cards, most, if not all of the figures that came out in the Star Wars line, the original 1978-79 line, were re-released on an Empire Strikes Back card beginning in the 80s, 1980, 81, 82, and then were released again along with the Empire Strikes Back card figures on a Return of the Jedi card. So I believe 2-1B was, I think, a Return of the Jedi card. Now on the back, you can see all the different figures. Now, I will tell you that this has 61, well, it says collect all 77, which I find interesting. Because, oh, sorry, no, it is. It says collect all 77, so this is like a 77 back. Okay, these, they kind of like to define cards by how many figures are displayed on the back. Now, this is more commonly referred to in things like the 12 back, 21 back, that kind of thing. But with the earlier releases. But this is in fact 77. You can see, and they even have a nice little checklist. So I remember as a kid, these back of the cards were very helpful in kind of keeping track of who your figures were and how many you had and which ones you needed. So it's a really nice thing. So this actually is a very, very good card. Actually, I lucked out with this one. It's probably one of my better cards. It's unpunched, as you can see. If you look up closely, you'll see that the punch is for the the little where you would hang it on a peg. The punch hole is still filled in. Okay, the card itself isn't really bent. The plastic is in really good shape. There's not a lot of yellowing. So these are the kind of things one looks for like a mint card. Now, where people who have said, I've said on my previous episodes, the way I collect vintage, I try to find slightly damaged cards because I'm not interested in collecting for investment sake. I'm interested in collecting for nostalgia sake. I do not need the cards to be vintage. Okay, I don't need the vintage cards to be absolutely immaculate. I just want them to be decent. So this card, obviously, if you look here, over here by my thumb, you'll see a price tag. Now you probably take that off. I mean, I know there are even YouTube videos that show you how to do that with like mineral spirits or some people use lighter fluid. There's lots of ways to get rid of it. I'm not worried about that. I've kind of kept it where it is. And that punch I've mentioned is starting to come off. But it is probably one of my best cards. And I don't know. I always liked the 2-1B droid. I don't know why. I just thought the droids were kind of an unappreciated lot, as it were. So that was pretty good. All right, why don't we move on with the by the way, $1.99 at KB Toy Hobby. Come on, you can't beat that. All right, geez. That's what I always tell people. Say because I teach in the high school that I went to, so a lot of people will say a question I get asked a lot, something profound for the yearbook was teachers that went to Central are asked the question, what would you do? What would you tell yourself if you could go back in time and tell your high school version of yourself? What would you tell them? And a lot of people say, I would tell them, to be kind, be a kinder person, be a gentler person, look out more for your neighbor, that kind of thing. And I went, well, I would do all those things, but then the next thing I do was tell my younger self to go out into the KB Toys and buy all the Star Wars figures. you got a lot of laughs. Anyway, all right, so moving on. Tusken Raider, definitely not an original Return of the Jedi release. It was a Star Wars release. Came out in that first initial wave. Okay, and if you try to find a card like that, you are going to end up paying tons of money. Again, pretty decent card. Okay, punch, still there. Okay, this one's a little bit of yellow. You can kind of see, and it's a little bit. If you watch me this way, so you can see it's bent a little bit, like wobbly, warped a tiny bit. Obviously, the price tag. I just laugh. I kind of like the price tags on there. $1.99. Before that, I think it was $2.79, and I think the $2.79 was the figure. That was the cost. KB Toy Hobby, which is the toy stores that you always appear in the malls. It's amazing to see what they had. And this is also a 77 back. And you can tell also by the Return of the Jedi logo, that's generally the first wave of Return of the Jedi. You can see all the figures. And you look at the end there. Although it is interesting the way they count them. Like, they're all out of whack. I mean, look at like number 77 is Bosk. Number 76 is R5D4. So then I don't know exactly how they are being released. I mean, how they arbitrarily decided to list the 77 figures is kind of weird, but still cool. So there you go. Tusken Raider got his gaffy stick. Okay, pretty cool. All right, so some nice additives to the collection there. I was also a big fan of the toys that they listed, the toy play sets. We had the Rancor, we had the little catapult, we had the Ewok glider, and we had my favorite, Max Rebo band. So that's kind of cool. All right, moving on. Leia as Boushh, or Boushh. Is it Boushh or is it Boushh? I never can tell. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. And it's funny, too, like, so many of these character names, they really just came from, like, sometimes the toy designers. I mean, I know Boushh was different, but... All right, again, pretty decent card, okay? Again, you can see there's a little bending on the corner there. There is a little bit of warpness, okay, and a tiny bit of yellowing. But I always liked how this figure included a separate little bubble for the helmet. I always thought that was kind of classy. That was really neat. Again, a Return of the Jedi card. This was a Return of the Jedi figure, okay? Came out on a Return of the Jedi card. 1983, so right when the movie came out. And again, a 77 back. I don't have to show you that again. It's pretty much the exact same card as the other one. Okay. Oh, here's a blast from the past. I remember this. The Proof of Purchase, which I always loved. It was General Mills, the same people that give you cereal. The Proof of Purchase. It's always an interesting thing when you would do. You'd have to cut those out and mail them in. That's why some of my cards don't even have those. They have like a hole where the proof of purchase was, because they cut them out to mail away their free Admiral Akbar or Bosk or Emperor or Palpatine or whatever figure it was. But you can see the figure is really cool, and they really started improving the sculpts when they got into the later movies, or the last movie of that original trilogy. So pretty cool stuff. And again, lots of price tags. This one's a Montgomery Ward, and I just love it. Marked down to $2.99. I can't tell what the price was. I think it was $3.06 maybe. Marked down to $2.99. Marked down to 97 cents. 97 cents. If we ever have time travel. Oh my goodness. So, all right, and then lastly, in this particular series, for right now, we have our Wicket W. Warwick action figure. Now, this is something that at the time, okay, well, first let's talk about the card. Actually, another nice one, except it's punched. Okay, you can see it's got the punch in there. And it's got a little bit of bending on the corner and a little bit of yellowing on the bubble. Okay, and your price tag. They pretty much all have your standard thing. I think there's a chance that I might have purchased a lot of these from the same collector who had them stored the same way. I'll be honest, I do a lot of my purchases on eBay. I know that a lot of people like to go to toy shows, and I will say this, going to toy shows, I love going to toy shows. I will say that when you go to toy shows, you can often find some unique items, And if you're willing to risk it, a lot of people like to go to toy shows on the last day. If it's like a weekend, they go like the last day, the last couple of hours, and as people are packing up, they can be very receptive to offering, especially if you want to bundle a deal, offer to purchase 2 figures for a slightly reduced cost, and they'll even reduce that by even more if you offer to pay cash. So hint, hint, if you're looking to buy figures, that's a great way to do it, to save some money. You're still, make no mistake though, you're at a toy show, you're still going to be paying a pretty decent price. So I've been doing a lot of my purchases on eBay. And I know that eBay is a little buyer beware because you don't know for sure. You only got photos. You don't know for sure about it, but I think that this works out pretty well. $1.97 and then again 97 cents. 97 cents. Now, I will say that Wicket, like an R2-D2 or a Jawa, offered a particular kind of problem because they generally charge the same price for this figure as they would for a full-size figure, and this was a smaller figure. So people often wondered if there was something they could do. I know lately, Lucasfilm Licensing and Hasbro have tried to combat that by including a 2-pack of figures that are smaller in stature. So, it's the same amount of plastic. But I always like this little Wicket figure. I think he's pretty good. Again, a good sculpt. Nice little, he comes with his little staff, his little hoodie there. So, pretty cool stuff. All right, so that will do it for this week's Shelf Talk episode, which featuring sorry about the glare, featuring our the first 4 figures that we have in it. We have an Empire figure, we have a Tusken Raider figure, we have a Leia Boushh figure, and we have a Wicket figure, all of which are on Return of the Jedi cards. And again, that's another reason why the carded action figures are a little more affordable in this range. The Return of the Jedi cards were the ones they made the most of. Okay, by the time Return of the Jedi came out, a lot of people were, there were other collectibles on the market. There were other toy brands, toy licensees on the market. Other things were starting to become popular. So Star Wars was winding down. Even when Return of the Jedi came out, Star Wars was winding down. Okay, they didn't release. They just didn't release they released a ton of figures, but they weren't as desirable as the figures were when they came out in both Star Wars and Empire. Not sure why. I loved them, but I managed to pretty much get the entire collection. That was anything that was available in the United States. I was able to pretty much acquire in my youth. But again, to go back and try to get carded action figures, you have a better shot if you look for slightly damaged or stickered cards, unpunched. Although in this case I had punched, but I had an unpunched card here. And if you'll have a much better time finding them on the Return of the Jedi label more than anything else. Even after this, when they had the Power of the Force label, this is the one that had the vast largest amount of extra stock. That's why there were so many that were on sale. So that'll do it for this week's Shelf Talk. I hope you enjoyed this format. I'll mix things up a little bit, go to show other shelves. I got other things I'm planning in the future. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and check me out on Instagram, Twitter, and Darth Tuba Star Wars Boxing page on Facebook. Leave comments if you have any other specific requests. Thanks so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.